Hi, welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, senior film writer for Now Magazine, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Paula Brancati, an actor, producer, and writer who co-stars in the latest season of Slasher, Guilty Party, which is streaming on Netflix right now, just in time for Halloween. She also produced and co-starred in Sadie's Last Day on Earth, co-wrote and co-starred in People Hold On, and played Jane Vaughn on Degrassi: The Next Generation, so, you've seen her around. Paula picked The Godfather, Francis Ford Coppola's 1972 colossus that, 45 years after its release, stands as one of the greatest American movies ever made. Coming out of pretty much nowhere, Coppola turned Mario Puzo's pulp novel into a sprawling, somber drama about a close-knit Italian-American family that just happens to be filled with monstrous criminals. And he cast it with an array of brilliant performers. Marlon Brando won the Oscar for wearing pounds of latex, but everyone around him was just as great. A bunch of nobodies named Al Pacino, James Caan, Diane Keaton, Talia Shire, Robert Duvall, and John Cazale. Nominated for 11 Oscars, the film won Best Actor, Best Picture, and Best Adapted Screenplay, and set the stage for Coppola to roar back 2 years later with The Godfather Part 2, a masterpiece in its own right. Part 3, not so much. This is Someone Else's Movie.
Oh my god, there's a few reasons. First of all, when I was thinking of what to choose, I wanted to pick The Godfather and was like, how Sicilian can I get? Because my mom was like, you're not actually doing it. I'm like, of course I'm going to do The Godfather. So my family is Sicilian, spoiler. My dad watched this movie when he was very little. He was like 9, I think, when he watched it. My grandfather, my nonno, snuck him into the movie theater. He's I'm going to take Tony to the movies. Took him to the movies. My dad was terrified. Toll booths are still a heavy trigger for him. Sure. It's a heavy experience. So then he would tell us bedtime stories that were like, I'll tell you about my favorite movies. So he'd tell my brother and I about The Godfather or Elvis Presley's story, which is a dark one. Anyways, I know, what a strange childhood. But
it's a vivid childhood.
Vivid and rich. And so he had the book, the Mario Puzo book, and I was like, I haven't watched the movie yet, but can I read it? So I read the book, actually, which wasn't appropriate for kids.
I was going to say, the book is actually more, it's way more sexual than the movie.
Totally. Don't think he had any recollection of that. But I was kind of into it. And then eventually watched the movie and, loved it. And then, and I loved 2 and then was scared about 3 because I'd heard all these, it's not going to live up. But I actually really dug 3, too.
Okay.
But yeah, it just has a lot. It's a movie that I could watch over and over and over again. Can say most of the dialogue throughout. Our family loves it. I think I'm tentative to feed into the Sicilian mob stereotypes because I think there's so much more than that. But what I think the movie does beautifully is that yes, it's about the mob, but you feel this family. I was just rewatching the opening wedding scene before coming, and that opening wedding scene just showed what a beautiful intro to a movie where you learn about all this world so fast and it just feels like another wedding. I don't know, I think it's just one of the best movies ever made.
And I haven't
seen them all the movies in the world, but I definitely feel like it's...
Well, I was going to say it would be hard to find somebody to really... I keep waiting for it. I keep waiting for the shift. The millennial shift where someone's Godfather, big deal. It's
oh my god, I'll be so scared of that. You're right, we never know.
Because everything, this is why you're wrong, right? That's what the new internet memes are.
Yeah.
You think The Godfather's a great movie, but here's what's real. Actually, the Star Wars prequels are no.
You have a great point. I haven't heard that perspective on this movie.
Yeah, I don't think you could. I know there's I guess he's 25 now, a friend of mine who says that he found the conversation really slow, and it's yeah, okay, I get that. If you're raised on speedier cinema, and
it's a long movie.
Yeah,
it's a long movie, but I feel
I meant Coppola's the movie, The Conversation.
Oh, Coppola's movie, The Conversation is slow. I see.
That was the one he thought was too slow, but he's still fine with The Godfather.
Yeah, but I feel slow conversation is something, or just packed conversation is something that's missing sometimes. I mean, I just love conversation in general, but
right.
If the characters are interesting in a film, then I'm interested in what they're saying. It doesn't all have to be quick. Mm-hmm. I watched a movie recently, can't remember what it was, and said why is this long? Like, why is it this long? Like, if something's over 90 minutes now, I'm like, what is it The Godfather? Like, what's happening? So I don't know. I feel like every minute is warranted of the conversations in this movie, but generally, like, yeah, I think that millennials now are just used to seeing things that are fast, and also with the change in TV, I think there's also just so much content, so everyone's watching a really high quality show for an hour that feels like an entire movie all the time.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
You have one eye on the clock or one eye on the other screen, or everybody's talking about how there's distracted viewing playing into it now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people are willing to binge 6 hours in a day of an entire run of an animated series or something. You know, like, what was the last one?
Right.
Love came out, and everybody said that they were, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, people were finished it.
I know.
I like the show, but I gotta breathe. I mean, I have no problem with pacing it.
Yeah, I wonder if it's, if binge culture just means we're just making things in a different way now, where we know there's an obsessive quality to everyone. It's like, I want to see it. I'm going to see it, all today. I will not, no moderation. I mean, I have great fond memories of waiting for a new episode of something to come out. Yeah. And when Seinfeld was ending, I remember being devastated because it was like we'd been waiting for the new episode every week. And now that Will and Grace, I'm a big sitcom fan also. Oh, yeah. And now with that back, I'm like, I forgot what it was like to wait for your favorite sitcom on a Thursday. Like, that's really cool, So
yeah, and it's been a long time. That's an experience an entire generation hasn't had.
Exactly.
Which is unimaginable to me.
Well, computers, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, how was I finding, if I didn't watch it the TV, I didn't have an option to go to Netflix or to the CBC player or whatever, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there was a point, I think it was in 1976 or 77, whenever it was, where CBS aired the entire Godfather, right? The complete epic. That was a big deal then.
That's right. And they do around Christmas do that, or they'll do that. Yes, exactly. And they'll do it again every Christmas. It's not even a Christmas movie, but it's family to me. Yeah, it feels super holiday now.
It's all the cooking.
It's all the eating, right? And the loud and the sort of, the watching it in chrono is really interesting.
Yeah, I still don't, I get it. I understand the appeal of it, but it's the whole point of the movies, that the first film is that there is no...
Absolutely. The second one is that there's flashbacks. I know.
Yeah, and the second one, the flashbacks are designed to contrast with the present and comment on it. That's all, it's continuum.
It's butchering the thing.
It kind of
for sure. I'm shocked that that's allowed.
Yeah. Plus that they aired it on... they took some of the sex and violence out, but not all of it. And it's, for the 70s when people were talking about, protecting children from things they could wander into. And I remember mature warnings for bad TV movies and stuff.
I was going to say, I feel like this, if any, kid is watching this now, it's so tame.
It would be, right?
I imagine.
Somebody blows up in a car, somebody else gets shot in the eye. Okay. What are you going to do?
Yeah, they're like, it's fine. Mm. I do miss Jimmy Caan in the second one a lot, and I miss De Niro in the first one. There is that where I'm like, there's two characters that I love that you don't get to have in the same thing.
Yeah, it kind of infiltrates the memory.
Fine, I'll watch them both, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, if there were worse things than spending 7 hours watching both films.
Just the joy.
Yeah, but it is, I was trying to place it in context in 72 where, Altman was sort of starting and the new Hollywood Renaissance was happening. Yes. And American cinema was scrappy and handheld, and all of a sudden Coppola just produces this thing which starts with a horn solo and a close-up, and it just takes its time. That opening shot,
it took its time. Yeah. And you're building, I think it was in a lot of ways the beginning of the anti-hero, and and creating not just one, you have a group of people that you're following that are doing really bad things, and yet everything they say you're kind of like, I want you to do well. I'm co-signing everything. And The Dawn is beautiful, but I think having it be Pacino sort of I'm a huge Pacino fan. Everything though, from Dog Day Afternoon and Serpico and all of it. So knowing how hard he had to work to get that job and how much they knew, all the stories. Of course, they almost fired him.
It is it is crazy to think about how many things had to fall into place for the movie that we see to happen.
Crazy.
I remember I think it was the first VHS special edition release or whatever it was, way back when, where they included footage of De Niro auditioning for Sonny.
Exactly, I love that.
I would watch that, but it wouldn't be the same. It would be radically different.
Radically different.
Because De Niro doesn't care if you like him, and Caan wants to be he Sonny is, in his mind, Sonny is a really nice guy.
Yeah, that's, I know, you know.
De Niro doesn't have that.
Yeah, that's such an interesting way of comparing their approach to it, because I think that's true.
He's kind of doing Johnny Boy from Mean Streets.
Yeah.
Charming, but it's empty.
Well, yeah, like, James Caan didn't play it like a cool guy, even though Sonny's incredibly cool and sexy to me. Like, I think he thinks, he wants to please the family also, and wants to do, well, there's one of my favorite lines that he does, is, they're on the phone, so Lotso's like, don't lose that famous temper of yours, and he goes, oh, wait. I like that nothing's ever pushed, I think, by anyone in the movie. It feels really, oh my god, what's Connie's name? What's the actress? The amazing...
Oh, Talia Shire.
Yeah, like...
Director's sister.
Amazing.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Jason Schwartzman's mother. It just gets weirder and weirder when you unpack
oh my god,
the
that family
stuff.
web. Well, the whole business is pretty...
Yeah, I love that Jason Schwartzman and Nicolas Cage are cousins, and no one ever talks about it.
You're blowing my mind.
Oh yeah, no, they're all, like, it's not incestuous, but there's definitely a web.
Yeah, there's a web.
That starts in this movie and just radiates out.
Totally. Well, and there's something in... It might have been the behind-the-scenes special thing you were talking about, but someone described... that the reason the opening and the whole film really feels so authentic is because Coppola perfumed it with his own family memories. And that is what I think makes, you know, that way of filmmaking so beautiful. That's why I can watch it anytime and be like, I feel like I'm right there with them. And I feel like we know those people. I just get so excited by that. Love that.
The authenticity? The
authenticity and feeling like we're popping in. I like feeling like when I'm watching movies, like I'm really popping into... like I'm peeking in on someone's life as they're living it. I don't know if you feel this way, where it's like, even if it's a world that's really foreign to me, I think the best films do that, where you just feel like, oh my god, this is so personal that I feel like I shouldn't be there. Or like,
well, the
restaurant scene.
The sense that there's life happening around the corner and outside, and that there's everything.
Yes, every nook and cranny, right? Yeah, that really jazzed me up. And the restaurant scene.
That poor waiter.
I know.
Right? He's gonna have to live with this.
Even the sound design for that whole scene has, like, I reference it a lot when we're making stuff now, where I'm like, oh, that scene, could we do like a drone thing, like when Michael's hearing the train? Like, I watch it for a lot of reasons, but the slow pace, and also that they're speaking in Sicilian for a bunch of it and they don't have subtitles, I think is so telling, because it doesn't matter what they're saying. Like, that's how distracted he is. Yeah. Like, it does, you know, I can understand it, but yeah, no one else really needs to know what they're saying. It's like they just take their time, you know? Yeah.
It's funny, as soon as you said that, I thought about, oh, that's right, other scenes are subtittled. Like, a lot of them are.
I know, and I think it's such a specific choice to go, they're talking for a bit, and Michael can't really speak Sicilian very well.
He's trying to follow along, and you feel the tension.
Oh, and Sicilians are, me being one of them, but with no mob ties, but definitely, there's this thing that happens where I grew up raised by my parents and my 4 grandparents, so I would speak the dialect all the time with them. Okay. There's this sort of thing that happens where I realize, like, there's a respect thing, and not so much with them, but when I'm seeing aunts and uncles or whatever, if you know the dialect, you're going to speak it with everybody. So when he's put on the spot in that scene, I always feel for him, because he's like, the panic of like, okay, I just have to speak English now. Like, we got to just get down to brass tacks. I think it's really cool, and it's very authentic, you know?
Yeah, it's funny. As you're saying that, I'm thinking, like, that's right. My grandparents all spoke Yiddish, and I could understand them, but I could follow along, but I was useless at actually talking.
Pop in.
Nah. No, I was too little, I think, and then they stopped. They sort of transitioned out of it.
Could they speak English as well?
Oh yeah. But they were like when they were trying to hide stuff from us. That's when they started talking Yiddish. I was like, I can follow that.
And that's when kids start going, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then I got to.
That's when you learn.
Then I got to learn a little bit. I have this theory that my nonni, well, they speak some English, but my one grandmother in particular, I have a theory that she knows way more English than she lets on. Then she'll pop in, and I'm like, oh, you totally know what I'm saying.
Strategy.
Very clever,
I like it. It's a good way to keep up with the kids.
Totally.
And the and the inflections, the way that people speak a language that isn't their first language is something that the movie really gets too. Because I keep coming back to Vito and what Brando does, and
unbelievable.
He is doing so much work to disguise himself, which should be obnoxious and isn't, because I can only imagine. I was 4 in 72, so I didn't see The Godfather until the 80s. But I can only imagine what it would have been like to watch that and know who Marlon Brando was.
Right, to be like this... to be those other actors.
To go see that the year after, right?
Yeah, it's... I don't even know... I don't know if you've seen... It's on my Instagram, but I don't know if you've seen the photo of his makeup test. You've seen it, of course. Stuff, yeah. And he was a huge part of... He's the one who, like, suggested that they put cotton balls in his mouth, all this, that, like... So that, it sounded like he probably got shot years ago. Like, creating all this detail work that's... so genius, and that they thought to cast him is really interesting. You know,
I was trying to figure out what the other options were. This is a little game.
That's a fun thing.
Who else would you have cast? And then you realize that you could recast the younger roles, but there's no other possibility now that I've seen Brando.
Who was that? Was there anyone that was the actual age? I wonder at that time.
Yeah, there must have been people. I mean,
but. Why wouldn't you have them?
Hayden, maybe. They're actors.
Right.
Sterling Hayden's always the go-to guy in these situations because he's the...
Maybe they've thought, and we're like, we've got to think outside of the box.
Like Spencer Tracy under makeup. Someone would have had a bad idea here or there to try with somebody.
Yeah, it just felt so in the pocket. And, he won the Oscar for Best Actor. And he was in, obviously, a whole bunch, but he actually dies in, like, I don't know if this is true. Maybe it's a thing my dad told me. Like that he won the Oscar and it was only in 3/4. That's for lead actor is actually really rare.
Yeah, because so much of it is ensemble.
It's so much is ensemble, and then he's gone. And there's the Sicily flashbacks that he's not.
That's true.
There's all that period.
Yeah, I mean, he dies at the very end of the movie, but yeah, there's stuff.
Ish. Yeah, you're right.
Well, no, I mean, there's one scene afterwards, right? The consolidation and then...
True, all the...
Yeah.
Well, I guess he's just, like, in the hospital for a bit, but
yeah,
who cares? What he did
the Orange
is...
Groves thing,
That scene... The Orange Grove, you can only imagine. You don't know me, but I'm weeping when that comes up. Oh, yeah. Well, he came up with the
orange thing, yeah.
The orange thing, but yeah, I have such a close relationship with my grandfather who's alive, and the one who passed away we were so close. And there's so much symbolism behind the garden and how much time is spent in pride also of their respective gardens, and like for him to kind of die there is beautiful and poetic and traumatic, and so that scene really it's so good. And the stuff in Sicily I think is done really beautifully, like even in the way it's colored, like it's warmer and
it's golden,
right? It's so rich,
burnished sort of quality.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, it looks like Pacino just like developed a tan the second he got there. They were like, he's been in Sicily. I
just assumed they painted him, but yeah, you're right.
Maybe they were like spend some time. Yeah. And that he even his character work is obviously incredible detail work. He just seems like a whole, like, you see the shift there that he's like now killed a man and also is like more relaxed. Yeah. Like it's such a fascinating thing to have happened,
And I'm trying to remember, somebody described it as like the whole movie is a battle for Michael Corleone's soul, but I don't think that's true. I think he's always going in that direction, right? Like it's an inevitability. It's not suspenseful.
You think that there's people who...
he's grown up in this... I guess...
People are like, won't he? Like that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Will he embrace it?
I don't feel like it's as big a struggle as anyone wants it to be.
No, exactly. Kay wants it to be. Like his wife wants her husband to be a decent man. And that's why the ending lands as well as it does, because it ultimately does boil down this massive story to this man has lost his wife. Like, it's over now. Yeah. He's embracing evil. Yeah. But I think she's maybe fooling herself about the possibility that he won't.
Well, I think the fact that we're hearing... You're so right, and I think the fact that we hear her receive the... I mean, I don't know how new their relationship is when we meet them in the movie, but she's learning the info at the wedding while they're eating, and he's telling... he's just dropping this bomb in a casual... Like, everyone's laughing around them, and she doesn't know what she's in for, that poor woman.
Yeah, and I assume they've been together long enough, because if he's bringing her to his family...
The Sicilians, I assumed that, but they seem pretty chill.
Yeah.
They're pretty chill. She's a perfect foil for him. Like, I loved their chemistry.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's one of those movies where you're watching and you're like, oh, nobody knew who these people were. How do you not know who Diane Keaton is?
Although they wanted her for a while, so I don't know if you saw that footage where she was tested with a bunch of people who weren't him.
Oh, that's right. She's doing the readings.
Did the scene over and over again and over again. And it kept coming back to Pacino, and Coppola would throw Pacino in at the last second of every mix. Like, okay, we'll throw them back. Yeah. I also think that that's really cool to hear about, to know that, a director can really, just to hear about a relationship that was forged where a director has an actor's back so intensely from the get-go before, just going, this is the movie I want to make with this person, and I'm really going to fight for them. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that it's increasingly rare these days, but probably it's not, right? Like at a certain level of budget, you can work with whoever you want as long as they're...
I'd like to think so, and I think that's probably the case. And at a smaller budget, you also have that. I think on both ends of the spectrum, maybe. But there's a whole place in the middle where, and with social media now, I think there's a huge change where, first of all, actors I think are encouraged to have a social media presence, so that's attractive or something. Yeah. And then, there's definitely bugs in ears of, like, if someone has so many followers, that could be helpful or whatever, which feels icky to consider or talk about, or to think that you're being, like, viewed in that way. So I don't think...
It's probably the equivalent of this many Tiger Beat covers, right? Like,
totally, you're right.
People know who this person is, and also there's this additional value.
Right, it's like a dollar sign for them a little bit, whereas, like...
But it's awful.
I think it's
exploitative and awful.
Yeah, I think if it's done in a way, I think anytime it's something that someone isn't interested in doing or doesn't serve their career or feels like it's a private thing that's, let's say you have a private account and you want something to be public, then that feels like contrived. But it's the whole scope of filmmaking is changing. I mean, I just read something that Netflix is coming out with. Is it 80 original features?
I heard about that. Yeah, next year there will be 80
feature films. Which is amazing also.
It's insane.
But also you're like, how do they even, who's, the being able to pump that out is so impressive. Obviously it's different people making those 80 movies, but there's just so much content.
Yeah, and I think about that announcement, and I first of all, that's 160 hours minimum. That's going to kill me.
You're like, see you in this screening room. Yeah.
But all that's going to do, I think, in the end, because of the way Netflix pushes stuff, is push the other stuff back. Like the things that they have purchased won't be as visible because they're not Netflix originals, and it doesn't profit them as much to push them in the front.
Interesting.
And you're constantly fighting against this flood of, people will look at the menu for an hour and think they've seen them all and then just not bother watching something.
There's a lot that I'm worried I've missed.
Oh, of course there is.
In the library. I feel like I need to do another catch-up survey of, like, what do you feel like watching this second? What mood have you been in this week?
Yeah. It's impossible to cover everything, to anyone's satisfaction, especially when those 80 films will also be accompanied by, I'm guessing, 50 series of some sort. 50 limited runs or episodics or something that dumps 10 hours of Mindhunter on you and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Lots to watch. Yeah. Lots of good things to watch.
Yeah. This brings us back to the idea of, like, a long-form film where if you tell someone they should be... I know there are people out there who haven't seen the Godfather movies. It's natural. You can't see everything. Everybody has blind spots.
I know. I screened it for somebody last Christmas, actually. Was like, oh, you haven't seen it? It's fine. I'll host a thing. I talked basically throughout the whole thing. We'll try and not... I'm like, are you comfortable with me saying some of the dialogue along? Or, like, not? Did. Whatever. I think it was slightly charming, but who knows? Doing another one next week.
Oh, really?
Before I even... Yeah, that was in motion. Good so two of my besties are going to... They're dying to see it. They're like, we've been holding off for a couple years because I think we should watch it with you. And so I'm... I feel like I'm giving people a gift when I... bring them into my space.
And I just shout at them to watch Galaxy Quest.
That's...
Call Tony.
I don't know Galaxy Quest.
No?
No.
Oh, my God. Oh.
You're like, we need to do a whole other podcast about Galaxy Quest.
You don't have anything else to do. So... Okay, we have established that it's all right for people not to see everything or not to know about everything. It's impossible. There's so much stuff. People keep,
It is impossible. I am interested though in, like, the must-watch movies.
Right.
Of just either people you're working with. Like, if I'm working with somebody, I'm like, what are films that inspire you, especially if we're making something together.
Right.
And then there's filmmakers that are important to different people that I think I might not even have a way, like, I don't know everything there's to know, of course, about a lot of filmmakers, but there are Godfather for me falls under like, watch it and you'll love it at some point in your life, I think.
It's a cornerstone, right? Like, you need to... There are a handful of movies that they don't create a genre, but they perfect it. And then everything
Right.
that comes afterwards is indebted to them. Like, you can't have... You can argue whether, do you prefer the classical mob movie of The Godfather or the more nervous contemporary stuff like in Goodfellas that created the other template.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But Goodfellas couldn't exist without The Godfather to inform it.
It could, no, exactly. It started that whole train. And then I think it's sort of, again, maybe I really drank the Kool-Aid, but it's like so much more than a mob movie, but like it is so much more than...
It's at least as valid as a family drama, right? Like
that's
it's
what,
about,
yeah, that's what it feels.
It's
well,
about
and then you
immigrants,
think...
and it's about generations, and it's about succession.
Exactly. Yes, you feel that. You feel that, and then you peel back more layers in the second movie, and... what was I going to say about the...
Yeah, I ran over.
No, it's okay. No, it was something that I think that I wanted to say to you, but I can't remember. But the immigrant thing is an interesting point, because the image of him at the airport, when they don't know the name, where they call him Corleone because of the town he's in, and seeing him as a little boy go over, I think that stuff is really affecting. And it being a family... Oh, The Sopranos is what I was going to say. I was going to ask if you... Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you, if you were...
Heavily indebted to both
heavily
of them,
indebted.
right? Because that's the first time that they talk about the world in terms of, like, their fictional characters commenting on our pop culture. So you're interlaced with it. And it's so weird that and Analyze This would come out in the same window of time.
God, that's so funny that it was at the same time.
Yeah, and De Niro is basically...
He's like, I'm cool with just...
Yeah, exactly. He winks. He's like, you feel the elbow in the theater.
For those who are listening, I was doing an elbow, but it doesn't translate.
No, it is, but it's like the constant, remember?
Yeah, whereas I feel like Pacino hasn't done much of that.
Not really, no.
Doesn't love to be, like, winking at the...
He's done his own kind of self-parody, but not in the same, like, he's in...
I mean, I adore both Bob and Al.
Yeah. Where did he play himself? Oh, Jack and Jill, that Adam Sandler movie.
Right, I know I didn't...
No, don't. It's better this way.
I saw the scene, though. I did see...
No,
I did.
That's only
but I've erased it.
Yeah.
I got to watch Al Pacino with my dad, so for his 50th... Our gift to him was to go to New York to see Al Pacino front row in Merchant of Venice, and I went with him, and it was like watching him watch Al Pacino was like a whole other emotional thing of like just like the man crush that was just sort of like awe, but also seeing Pacino do that was so cool, and Penelope Cruz and Javier were next to us, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
No big, I think they're friends, so he was like there was that connect of like bowing for your friends that are in the audience, but yeah, seeing Pacino, seeing Michael really up there was really cool.
Yeah. So does that happen for you? Do you sort of see echoes of the performance? Is he Michael in everything?
Yeah, I mean, no, because then I think of like Scent of a Woman, which is that I just love and love him in it. Though should he have won the Oscar for it? I feel like he should have won ages before.
Yeah, I mean, you never win for the thing you deserve, right? Like almost never.
I guess that's an interesting point.
Well, it's and there's this whole other thing about like he didn't win for Godfather. So
but
there you
see
go,
that
right?
I think and then they teed up 3 was really supposed to be like they're like, okay, we'll make you something that you're gonna win for. In 1 he was too new probably to win supporting, but 2 he absolutely I think should have won. There was some fright. He was truly terrifying.
I wonder if it's that thing where like he's so clearly a co-lead that putting him in supporting doesn't feel right to people, or like they resist it.
Well, now the politics of
now it's...
all that's been unearthed about the politics of award season.
Yeah.
My friend Lainey Gossip, reading her blog during award season, I'm like, oh my god, right? That it's sort of it burst the bubble for me years ago, and I'm like, now I feel like I'm in the know. Like my Oscar ballots, I'm never not losing that. Yeah.
Campaigning
is a different thing now, is what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
They didn't have to...
Jockeying, positioning, strategy, all of it.
And there's so social media
and specialize in this stuff.
They didn't have to even... Like, that wasn't even on the...
Yeah.
I don't think it was. I don't know. But I don't think in the 70s...
Probably not at the same scale, no. But, and you get, like... And you still get the movie winning. So... both times, right? Like,
yes.
1 and 2, there's no arguing with that. And when you look at 1974, and it's The Godfather 2, and the Conversation, and what else? French Connection won in the 70s. There's some other film that I always forget was there, and then The Towering Inferno got nominated. And it's like, well, that was never a contender.
No, I don't. And does it know it's not a contender?
Oh no, certainly not. No, they all thought they were making art. Well,
or maybe,
better.
But like, But do the people going to the Oscars on the night, do the filmmakers know that when The Godfather's nominated, like, are they like, oh, it's going to be that? I just wonder how, I don't know.
I wonder. I mean, I was going to say, you can argue against the idea of the seismic movie winning everything with, like, Forrest Gump versus Pulp Fiction, right? But then you've got studios and indies and all the other weird considerations in the 90s and, a whole mess of stuff that factors in then that didn't factor in 71 and 72 because...
How long after was Godfather 3? I feel like...
1990.
It is quite a ways after. And then they aged him up, which I actually feel like that was where... that's maybe where they went wrong.
That was the thing that went...
You're like, Paula, I have a whole list.
You can talk it through.
The hair.
Yeah, no.
I feel like had we kept him a little younger, I would have... Yeah. I mean, I still loved it, because I think, on its own, everyone would have liked that movie. I think...
You mean if it just arrived clean without...
I do. I think that because there was so much tied in.
Certainly, now we're getting these long-term sequels where we're used to, another Blade Runner, another, like, even The Color of Money, right?
Yeah.
In 86 was 20-odd years after The Hustler.
Right.
And that would have been 16... It was only 16 years after Godfather 2, but yeah, it felt like this epochal arrival, this huge deal that Coppola... And not that Coppola wasn't making that same case. But, I think... This is going to sound weird, but I think they fundamentally went wrong when they cast the kids. Because the kid who plays Michael's son looks like Khan, and Andy Garcia looks like Pacino, and he's playing Sonny's kid, and it's just...
Oh my God, that's such an interesting... I mean, you're not wrong that Andy Garcia absolutely looks like a Pacino's kid.
Yeah, it's so...
You forget that he's supposed to be James Caan's kid, and then there's the incestuous thing.
Yeah,
that they're cousins, right? Yeah. Although, like, Andy Garcia is so hot. And Sofia Coppola's I love her in it.
She's fine. Yeah.
That's what everyone says, and I think she's more than fine.
I think the problem is that the character she's playing is so, like, reactive, and she's surrounded by so many big performances that
true.
Just playing naturalistically looks wrong. Like,
I see. You think tonally it didn't fit.
Yeah, think about how big Pacino is and how big Garcia is, and
Diane.
Yeah, all of them. Like Talia Shire's doing that whole...
You're not wrong.
That whole Lady Macbeth thing that she ages into in that movie.
Right. There's the religious subplot.
Yeah, that's right. They throw a pope off the staircase in this movie.
I forgot about that.
It's a huge film.
Yeah.
And she's naturalistic, and a couple of other actors are too, and it's not as bad, but because of where the film puts her and...
But I thought Andy Garcia was...
Doesn't he bite somebody's nose off? Am I missing that?
You know what? He very much might, but I like that. I like that that's a thing that you're like, but he could have done it somewhere else, too.
Yeah, I think he eats Joe Mantegna's face. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely doing some crazy shit, but like...
Well, and Coppola's going into full opera mode in the movie, too.
Yes, he is. No, and that's clear. Yeah, but the ending, to spoil it...
Yeah. I don't think you can spoil Godfather 3.
It's so... Yeah, you're right. You're like, no one's... People watch it, though, the way I did, where they're like, oh, this is that... I have to watch all three at the... one after the other once you discover The Godfather. I would say wait a bit.
Yeah.
Watch 1 and 2 and then watch this another time.
I think so.
But the ending is pretty beautiful and heartbreaking.
It is pretty. I mean...
Well, and that he dies alone, I think, is and old, I think is cool for the end of it all.
Yeah, it is
poetic.
The one... I was going to say it's a beautiful echo, but it is the one great concept of this movie is that everybody else dies violently, but these men who have engineered and orchestrated all of this horrible stuff, they just live. Nobody gets to them. Like, they get shot, they get better.
Yeah. It's like fine. Body of steel. And that he's, probably very unhappy is the other.
Yeah, no, you have to live with your misery.
Yeah,
for as long
really
as it takes, or your lack thereof, right? Like, you make everybody else miserable around you.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's so effective about... I'm wondering if maybe that's why the first movie landed as well as it did, because everybody has these nightmare families. Everybody has this idea that family is a trap, and this one articulates it in such a horrible way that we all feel better for our own situations watching it. I mean...
It makes everyone feel... They're like, thank God I wasn't
not that I have nightmare relatives or anything, but everybody hears stories about, this one character, this one person in the family, and then you see this where there are no good people. I mean, Fredo's the sweet one, but he still betrays everybody.
Oh my God, but who wants to be afraid of?
Yeah, we're all.
Although that performance.
Yeah. Oh no, Gazelle. I mean, God.
Gazelle, like what he and then Dog Day Afternoon also, like.
Yep. Every
and
movie
Deer
he
Hunter,
made, right?
every movie he made.
5 movies, they're all classics.
Crazy. Yeah, no one wants to be. We do a game of like who's who in the family, like who's our Sonny, who's our like who has the temper, who. You never want to be afraid of at the family dinner.
No, that's kind of been that's the way I understand the Trump situations. They're all Fredos, and it makes it slightly easier to handle what's happening in the world. Just
that's
because,
interesting.
Yeah, nobody's at the wheel. Like they're all just fumbling around
that
trying to prove how smart they are and how best they are and how great they are. And I was like, nope. Yeah. You can all see right through it.
Yeah, and then they're also like Solozzo, and they're a mix.
Yeah,
they're a real hybrid of a few. But you're right. You're right. Fredo does speak to a lot of what's going on.
It's weird, right? Like, if you look back and you see that in 1972. Charismatic leadership, right? Like it was an answer to Nixon. It was an answer to even Johnson before that. These guys were people who could get stuff done at a time when America was looking like the worst place it had been with civil rights in Vietnam and the sexual revolution. It was all chaos. And here's this myth of order achieved through crime. But it's this movie that tells you, if somebody knows what he's doing, maybe get out of his way. Yeah. And then you see somebody as charismatic as Pacino become that leader. And you're like, yeah, okay, he makes some pretty valid points. It's a shame about all the bodies.
Yeah, but he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, it's an interesting point because I'm thinking about how cool it is and then also devastating it is to watch movies that were made during one political time and watch them now with a whole new lens with everything that's going on and see it in a whole other way, Guess I'm popping this in for the 17th time this evening.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sonny's treatment of women is going to play very differently in the post-Weinstein world, right? Like, now that we are at least...
Sonny's treatment of women.
Yeah.
I was going to say Sonny's and then also...
that's true. The brother-in-law... basically gaslighting Kay, isn't he?
Oh, I was going to say the brother-in-law that's abusing...
Oh, that guy, yeah, fuck
But you're right, the whole thing is...
Yeah,
is fucked. No, even
you have to, like it was a different time. You have to start making excuses, but it's depicting criminal behavior. I don't think we have to make excuses.
I think we're signing on to them being criminals.
Yeah,
like that's fine. But also we sort of. I think that the thing that the movie does really well is we're just like in the world going, oh, that's what they do. That's the framework. But we're actually just viewing them as like. We're like, hey, they gotta win.
Yeah.
They're gonna beat those guys? Like, no, they're all bad guys. Yeah.
No, it's exactly what you said about paving the way for the anti-heroes. These people are our heroes because we're in the room with them. You spend enough time with them and you start to...
They're real people.
Yeah.
And they're having dinner with their families and, it's... I think that Mrs. Corleone is really... Because she doesn't have a ton to do, but she's so authentically, like... You just feel exactly that whole woman's story. Mm-hmm. And in the few things she does do, like, intimating that Sonny shouldn't get involved in, her daughter's marriage and anything like that, just so speaks to that time. And, like, oh, that was a different time. And, the boys are doing what they're doing over there and, like, don't look.
Yeah. And I always forget it's a period piece. I mean, I know it is. But I always forget. Right. Like, it's set in the 50s.
You're right. I know.
There's... the late 40s, right? Because Michael's back from the war.
Yeah, exactly. We sort of go, it's it's not. I often go, every time I put it in and then the flashbacks in Sicily are in 2.
Right, they're like 1910s, 1920s, or even earlier. It's like turn of the century stuff.
Yeah, how old are they supposed to be in this? Like, how old do you figure Michael is
I think he's not yet 30. Or maybe about
he's not playing like 25 then.
No, but he's young. Like, he's fresh-faced.
And he's the youngest, I think, of the boys. Like,
yes,
Fredo's got to be a bit...
Sonny's junior, and he would have been the firstborn.
Oh, yeah.
Then Connie, I think. Then Fredo?
Right, Connie... Yeah, I think Fredo's, like, second.
Fredo's totally a middle kid.
He's absolutely a middle kid. I was like, look at me. And Duvall.
Oh, that's right. We didn't even mention Robert Duvall.
Shout out to him. Also,
it's because he's not in 3 and like they disappeared him, which still feels wrong.
But he's in 2.
He is in 2, yeah.
But it's that
Tom Hagen is essential.
Hagen's very much in 2, but I was saying that with the tone of, but who isn't in 2 in that beautiful flashback scene is exactly.
Yeah, Sonny's missing.
No, sorry,
Somebody else?
I meant the scene at the end where they have the dinner flashback at the end, and they couldn't get Brando. So they say we're prepping for Dad's birthday.
Yeah.
I almost thought that was more beautiful that he wouldn't do it and they had to write it that way because he died anyway. So it's this memory of like, they're waiting for him to get home.
Oh yeah, no,
it's really cool.
It is. It's I remember, like the first time I saw that, I was stunned that they got Khan back.
I remember being like, oh, I love this.
Yeah. And then it's like now we have dead characters returning in flashbacks or flash forwards or stuff all the time, and we're just
when people are killed
it.
off something, it's never.
Yeah.
I know, because of that time, it felt like a big get, and also no one was like leaking that story probably.
Yeah. Like, of course, because you'd want it to be a surprise. You'd want it to be something for the audience. And you would want, I think, as an audience member, not to spoil it for people either.
Totally.
Because it's just this lovely grace note.
And it made it feel
horrible,
warm.
horrible story.
I know. Grace note is such a good way to put it. See, a story about crime has us feeling warm at the end.
It does, right? Like, you just watched a guy have his brother killed, and here you still go out feeling good about it.
And you're sort of like, I guess he's got him. I guess Fredo's...
Yeah.
I guess that he's got to go. It's like, it's completely unreasonable. That scene, the kiss, is really devastating.
Yeah. I mean, so much of that movie.
I know. I'm going into 2. I'm doing both.
No, it's
a bleed over. Someone else can still do 2 on this.
I assumed you would do this. And
You're
it's
like,
okay.
she's going to talk about 2 and 3.
It can't be helped, though, because for better or worse, this is one of those works that every piece informs the other, and it reverberates through itself to the point where...
And the music, I do have to, like, for me, it's like, it take the beginning note and chord, you're like, it's iconic, you know it now.
Yeah.
Like, the waltz is so beautiful, not even just the classic. All of it's, like, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful music and score that built this whole world. Music's so important to me in movies.
Yeah.
Bad music can just... Or not enough.
Yeah.
Score.
Or too much.
Absolutely, too much as well.
I saw something just a couple of weeks ago that was, like, so drenched in music
like,
to tell you how to feel in every scene.
I don't like misleading score. But how do you add music and not have it lead? It's a tricky...
Yeah.
Being tasteful, I think, is really important. And score is becoming more interesting in film now, or just different in film, where, like, people are using sounds like what The Dark Knight did so well.
Drone tone thing.
Creating, like, non-sounds to find the Joker's... Like, just, it's really cool, you know?
Creating anarchy and chaos on the soundtrack without it on the screen.
Yeah.
Or, was it Johan Johansson on Arrival? That score, that sort of beautiful drifting cloud thing.
Yes, or like the Her soundtrack, which is like...
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can just... It creates a whole mood. Like, I'll listen to it and remember the whole movie immediately.
Yeah.
I dig that.
I don't pull out soundtracks as often as I probably should, now that you mention it.
I do it now when I'm writing, because I find if I have any music on, I want to sing with it if it has lyrics. Like, I'll just, like, sing along. So I have to take that away and just listen to score. It's so calming.
Really?
Or it can set you up for, like... anxiety.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to be writing, you know?
Yeah, I was on a Michael Giacchino kick a little while ago. I was listening to the Star Trek score and Spider-Man Homecoming and Doctor Strange.
Cool.
They're all so propulsive.
Cool, yeah.
Except that when I got caught in the rain during Homecoming, it's just like, I'm in a movie now. This is like
my movie.
Yeah, I was running home trying to outrun the rain, and the score is pumping. And I'm like,
you know, we all like feeling in a day that there's... Whenever it's raining, I say I put on the Lumineers. Like, that's my Lumineers.
Sure.
That's my rain day music. Just driving and, like, sad.
Just punch your way through it.
Yeah. Just really sit in the mood of the day, you know? But this can always lift me.
I was going to say, how do you use The Godfather? When do you deploy that score?
Family dinners. Like, to just be like, hey,
just
guys.
in the background playing quietly.
Sometimes we've got, like, really on-the-nose music like that. Yeah. You know what? It was someone's wedding. Not the do-do-do-do, but the waltz, which is less, like, they're killers. The waltz was my aunt's dance or something. It was really nice, actually. We forgot it was about mobsters, but it was a beautiful score.
Yeah, it does work on its own too. I mean, you can remove it from the film and it's still...
That's good music, though. I'm down with that. My brother scored mine and Mike's features, the recent feature for Sadie. And just working with someone who, like, you know, as a musician to do, like, he's a pianist who's amazing, but being like, okay, can you do that, but, like, this tiny mood of a thing, and, like, just the brain of a musician and how they work to tell a story like that is really cool to me. So, shout out to composers.
No, absolutely.
Of score, you know?
And this does bring us to the closer of the final question of the podcast, which is, you know, what of The Godfather, if anything, have you borrowed or stolen or incorporated into your own creative DNA in performance or writing or producing?
I think there's so much more than I even think, probably. Performances, I think, have all, and so many performances in it, I think, stay with me at different, in different situations. So, like, on the filmmaker side of things, I think it's a movie that I look to and go, look how well cast that is. You can cast a family that actually feels like they're, made of the same fabric. That's so exciting to me.
Yeah.
And I love being on the other side of things and being able to cast, when we are making our own projects. So that's been a thrill, but I do look to this movie for that. And then as an actor, I mean, as a child actor, I certainly wasn't aware of any, like, darkness, but I remember doing a kids show once, and the director's like, I cast you because I saw some darkness. I'm like, really? And being scared of your darkness and then finally going, I can lean into that, is something that I think all the actors in this do really well. So, just kind of like, I mean, everything about it, but namely, I think, the kind of slow way in which Pacino peels back the layers of where he's headed is really inspiring to me. But I mean, you should maybe choose one. It's a lot. I love it all through and through, and I think it's with me more than I think it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you do set up these screenings for people, so I'm just really curious. Do you set a mood? Do you tell them
the
stuff?
mood is there's gonna be like olive oil and bread. It's me with my laptop and an aux, not an aux. I don't understand technology. It's the cord, the HDMI cord. Oh my gosh, you're like, you probably have every cord I'm talking about.
It's okay.
That cord into the TV, and I sort of touch base on, are you comfortable with me talking? Are you not? I ordered veal sandwiches from San Francesco Bakery, which is a place that my grandfather would take my dad and that I would go with him. So it has nothing to do with the Godfather, but it just has a Sicilian memory to me.
It's a proper tradition, yeah.
So those are the key pillars to these screenings, and I'm happy to do them for you in my tiny It's not quite as nice as your setup, but it's always about food, and it's always about, like, I'll chat if you want me to. People's, like, we'll see how the next one goes. I might be just, like, kinder and zip it, because then when we get to take the gun, leave the cannoli. Oh, sorry. Leave the gun, take the cannoli. Of course, take the cannoli. And another favorite line of mine is, but it's said in Sicilian, is in Sicily, women are more dangerous than shotguns. So good. So good.
It's a good line.
Yeah, I'll just say it here so that I can get it out and not say it during the screening.
My thanks to Paula Brancati, who you can see on Netflix right now in Slasher Guilty Party. If you're in the US, Netflix also has Sadie's Last Days on Earth, the sweet, slightly weird teen dramedy that she produced and co-stars in. You can also find it on VOD pretty much everywhere. It's charming. Check it out. And keep an eye out for Edging, a little movie by Natty Zavitz in which Paula really pops. You can find Paula on Twitter at Paula Brancati, all one word, and you can find The Godfather on Blu-ray and DVD from Paramount Home Entertainment in an excellent restoration, either on its own or as part of the Godfather trilogy. It's also available on iTunes and Google Play. Oh, and Andy Garcia bites Joe Mantegna's ear off in the third one. Not his nose. My mistake. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner and elsewhere on the internet at nowtoronto.com. You can also find this podcast on Twitter at Semcast, S-E-M-Cast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. If you want to leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever, that would be greatly appreciated. Go to the mattresses. Thanks for listening.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.